What we're talking about today is I'm talking about pixel art. I'm going to show you how to create pixel art in Photoshop, which is a little weird because we've been using Photoshop for like high resolution photo blending. Now we're going to bring the resolution way down and zoom in, and we're going to create pixel art. So when I'm talking about pixel art, I'm talking about this. Okay, so it was used commonly in like early video games because there was a limited amount of data on your television. So you had to use little tiny squares of color to indicate the character, right? So like Super Mario Brothers right here, for instance, Mario would walk across the screen and do various things. So as this evolves, as this style evolves, you'll see that the graphics get cooler, the pixel art gets more interesting, even all the way up until today, where if you wanted to like get into video game development, which I know a lot of you do, this will be a nice little starting point, just playing around with pixels in general. But there's a lot of different video game studios that will create these sort of retro graphic kind of style games because they take less money for like the processing. Also, they are just cool throwback video games. But like if you're not, there's like two kinds of video games these days. It's either like the AAA games, like your God of Wars or Witcher or 2K or whatever. And if you're not on one of those $1 billion games, you're making like a smaller sort of independent game. Like if you play around on Steam or the Nintendo, indie stuff on Switch, So anyway, that was my little preamble into why we're doing this, because it's sort of fun in general just to do like video game style pixel art. And if you're not into video games, I'll show you some other ways to do this so that it's not necessarily video game related. But in general, this is what we're going to be doing. We're not going to be doing something as simple as 1982 Super Mario, but we are going to be taking these concepts in. So after I walk you through what we're doing here, I'm going to show you how to set up Photoshop, and then I'm going to show you how to actually create your project. Okay, so just be thinking about, as I'm talking about this, be thinking about what you might want to do for your project. All right, so as I continue forward, you can see as you increase the amount of pixels, you can get a more dynamic image, right? So it's still a pretty simple two-dimensional image. It's all built on this grid, but as you increase the amount of pixels, you can see there's some cool anatomy happening. There's a nice dynamic pose happening, and you'll notice that this gets cooler and cooler as the pixels increase. All right, so here's another example of that. Sort of like the original Mario, right? But just a little bit more color, a little more shadow, etc. Here's some simpler ones I'm going to go through real quick so you can see what we're talking about. This is just kind of a basic grid design kind of stuff. Here's a version that you can like turn into like a three-dimensional iron-on thing. I have one of these in the classroom that next time you're here, I'll have to show you of me. Okay, so moving forward. As you add more pixels, you can start to get more dynamic graphics. So you can tell that this is much larger than that original Mario that I showed you. And with that, you can see like shading, like different color differences. You can see these cute little potbelly characters. There's a little bit more artistic styling in this. It's not just filling in shapes. As I continue through, you can see if you create a grid that's large enough, like if you use enough pixels, you still get that retro feel to your design, but you can add some dynamic color and motion and style to it, right? These are a little bit more simple. But now on to what we're actually going to be doing. We're going to be creating a piece of artwork that uses these little squares of color, which are called pixels, to create the entire piece. So this is from a movie called Spirited Away. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But it's this cool anime. But anyway, as you can see, if you zoom in, this would be like a student example. You can see that there's this cute character here, and it's all just created by squares strategically placed in the right spot, right? Now I wanted to show you one of those, like a more cutting edge retro game. When I say retro, I mean new game that's using that retro style. There's this game that's called Dead Cells that came out a couple years ago. It won a bunch of awards. It's a really excellent game. But this is what I mean by this. If you are interested in that old school style, you can apply it to a new school video game. This game has got these beautifully rendered pixel environments, and the characters move really nice and smooth and fast. It's done in this style of this 1990s, 1980s even style pixel art. So you can take what I'm about to show you here, and you can create something really beautiful and intense if you're into it. Here's another example of that. Another example from that same game, it's called Dead Cells, as I was saying a second ago. If you zoom in a little bit, like from here, it just looks like a really complex, creepy, like Castlevania style castle. But when you zoom in, you can see that it's all constructed of these little squares. So like an artist created this, and then it was pixelized. Like it was created with using pixels to get this style. All right, so here's another example of like a student work. I can show you how to convert a basic photograph or a basic image into this pixel style. It's maybe not as satisfying as creating something on your own. It's got some challenges of its own, but there's a way to like bring an image in and then just like use your pixels to create like a pixelized version of that. I can show you that in a moment. The reason I show this is like there was like, if you're interested in Minecraft at all, or that particular style, that 3D generated version of this of the pixelated art was popular back in the day. Part of the reason Minecraft was so popular is because it was easily created, didn't take a ton of processing power, and it was kind of a throwback to those old video games. All right, so here's a great example of like a perfect, like this style perfected. All right, so this is a modern video game. It was created, and you can see that if you zoom in, you can see that it's all just squares. Like for instance, if I zoom in on this cloud, it's only like 3 different colors of squares, right? However, when you zoom out, because the artist is so talented, you create this beautiful, fluffy, like fantasy world, right? It's all just squares. Like, whereas the Super Mario that I showed you or the very beginning might be a tiny little thing, this is like many hundreds of pixels across. So it gives you a little bit more leeway to create your artwork. So don't expect anybody to create something at this level. This is a professional concept artist. But like if you wanted to take something like that, maybe just like make that tree or something, playing around with it, you can do that. Here's some examples of me and my art staff up here, my art friends. We created I created everybody as little video game characters. We've got my magical sword. Here's Mr. Fleming, if you know who he is, with some bloody scythes. Or Miss Erzman with a bloody axe and a camera. This is a former teacher here, Mr. Collins. But anyway, so here's an example of what your screen is going to look like when we create this artwork. Although this is in Illustrator, we're going to be doing this in Photoshop. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be just making a grid, and we're going to be filling in with little pixels what we want to create. All right, any kind of artwork we want to make. It can be, as I was saying earlier, video game related. It could be non-video game related. You could just be converting an old image. It's all up to you. So while I'm still talking, I still want you to be thinking about like what might you want to do. Okay, so now having said that, there's 2 more parts to this little lesson today. I'm going to show you how to set up your project so that you can work with pixels. And then I'm also going to show you how to research what you'd like to do. In fact, what I'll do first is I'm going to show you how to research this. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do is go to a Google image search and just look up pixel art. All right, if you go to a Google image search, look up the term pixel art, that'll be our search term. All right, by doing so, you'll see some really cool results. You'll see really complex, beautiful stuff like this. You'll see very simplistic stuff like this. And what it'll do is it'll just get you thinking like, what might I want to do, right? So all these different kinds of pixel art, you can do something hilarious and awesome like that. You can do these sort of like rendered video game backgrounds if you're interested in trying to do something along these lines. But you can also add adjectives to your search. So instead of pixel art, you can look up really cool, right? Just add adjectives to your search and it'll change your search. Look up really cool pixel art, you'll get really awesome stuff like this. So like this would be a really nice project. If somebody wanted to try to do like a, relatively detailed tree or item like that, that would be wonderful. Anything that you want to do. It can be something simple like this. It doesn't even have to be video game related. You could look up anybody, like look up anything, like what's something people are interested in? I don't know. I'm just Captain America pixel art. You already knew what I wanted. If I look up Captain America pixel art, I'm going to see all these different references. This project can be something as easy as counting and copying pixels. If you really want to do it like that, you can do something where you convert a photograph, which is what this person did here, or you can work on something freehand and you can create your own design, whatever you'd like to make. All right, but The key here is I want you to think about what you'd like to create, and then I want you to just do some research on it, get some references, think about how you might be able to create that thing. You could look up like, let me look up like best pixel art 2020, I don't know, random stuff. So this is usually going to be like indie games when you do something along those lines. So there's that game Dead Cells that I was telling you about. But when I do that, you can see all these really beautiful designs, right? Owlboy. I think that was Owlboy that I was showing you earlier. So anyway, have fun with that, and I want you to research it. But the key element here is I'm going to now show you how to set this up in Photoshop and how to begin. Okay, so everybody go ahead and come over to Photoshop with me. What we're going to want to do, pay close attention here, everybody. What we're going to want to do is we're going to click on Create New, which we've done a number of times. Only in this case, what we want to do is we want to look at this area right here. You see where mine says pixels? Yours might have said inches, for instance. What we want to do is we want to change this unit of measurement to pixels. And when you do that, you might have something like 3,000, 4,000, whatever, and you can name it whatever you want. What we want to stay in the realm of, we want to stay around somewhere between like 50 and 100 pixels either way. If you're really interested in doing something like a video game related, like widescreen, Nintendo Switch screen or something, you want to try to make a level, I don't know, level design, you can make the width up to like 100, but I would recommend staying between like 75 and 50. If you want it to be up and down, if you want it to be portrait mode, you want your height to be taller than your width. In this case, I'm just going to keep it 75 by 50. I'm going to click create. And what that'll do is when you do create it, you're going to get this tiny little screen like this. The reason for that is because we're working specifically in the pixels, right? So let me jump back to something real quick. The projects we're going to be creating are going to be really, really little. So what you can do is when you get to this point, you just hit Control-0, and it will, hit Control-0, and it will expand your workspace, or it'll expand your canvas to fill the window. Okay, so we are at the appropriate size here, and now we're ready to begin. The tools that we want to use for this project, though, are not tools that we've used yet. And so I want you to pay really close attention to this next part, because this is the important part. What I want you to use instead of your paintbrush, if you click on your paintbrush, if you click and hold on it, you can change it to the pencil tool. So we're going to use the pencil tool to create our pixel design. But here's the thing, I don't want you to work directly on your background. I want you to come over here to your layers and create a new layer. So we've got a new layer on top here. And now you can see that my cursor is like really rigid and strange looking. That's because it's working in the pixel. So I can go pick a color, and then I can start creating, right? So as I do that, you'll see that it goes pixel by pixel. I can make my cursor really small, like even like a single pixel. You can kind of create like this, right? I can come in here. I don't really know what I'm creating. Let's see. I'm just freehanding it. I can come in here and change the color slightly over here. Also, I can come in and start making it a little bit darker. And just by playing around with the different color tones, you can make different designs. What am I making? Who knows? But you can see, like, by changing colors up, you can make all kinds of different crazy stuff. Maybe it's some sort of weird red blood. Kind of looks like someone's small intestine. That's disgusting. Okay, so now let's say I want to remove this, okay? I want to get rid of these pixels. The way I would do that, excuse me, is I'd come to my eraser, but here's the key about the eraser. When I've got my eraser selected and I attempt to erase, it'll do this like soft fuzzy thing. You see that? While that does look cool, that's not really what I'm trying to do right now, because that's not really working within the pixels. Although it would work, we could do that. But what you want to do is if you come up here to where it says mode, you can change your eraser mode to pencil. And what that'll do is it will remove pixels at the same rate that you add pixels with the pencil. So I can come to my pencil here, I can make a line of whatever, and then I can come to my eraser and I can remove the pixels in that same style. And so we're just working pixel by pixel by using the pencil tool and then the eraser tool where the mode is set to pencil. All right, so it's very pencil-y. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just coming through here, and you can make really specific sort of like designs. If I want to go pixel by pixel like this, you see this? You have 100% control over your canvas. The only issue is like, what do you want to make? And you're limited only by your your imagination. So I'm just coming through here and slowly creating a little design. I don't really know what I'm making, but anyway, this is how you do it. Oh, and then another thing is this: if you don't want to be working on a white background, feel free to unlock your background. See that? And I can come work down here and I can change the color of my background by just simply changing the color of those pixels, right? You see, if I keep those layers, if I keep my layers separated and I keep it under control, I can create, I don't know what I'm doing here. Just making a weird background. Maybe it's like an underwater scene. So anyway, you can see how I've got my background layer, and then I've got my other layer on the top here where I was creating something. Okay. Oh, I was going to show one other thing. Let's see. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to show you was this. If I want to do like a conversion thing, like changing an image or using an image as a reference, right? I go to do a Google image search. Here's a couple of things. All right, let's say I'm ready to start and I've got my idea. I want to do Iron Man pixel art. All right, I'm going to try to do this. Here's one acceptable way to do this project. I can open something up like this. I can literally come in here and count pixels. So I can go select the appropriate color and then make 3 little black ones, then a little red one, then make more black. Like, you can copy images if you want to. That's fine with me. I'd like for you to add a little spin of your own to something. Like if I wanted to do something a little bit more dynamic, I can do that. Let's say you aren't really into that. You want to do something like, I want to convert a photograph to something. Let's say I want to take like Patrick Mahomes and make him into a little pixel art character, right? So I can take a photograph like this, all right? I can right click on this. I'm going to see if I can find a better one. Oh, that would be a good one. I can right click on it, save image. I'll just save it to my desktop. And now when I'm in Photoshop, what I can do is I can go to File, Place. And when I place this image, it doesn't look good. You'll see what I mean. It'll take that photograph and it'll make it incredibly pixelated. But what it will do is it will give you a reference. See that? So if I hit enter, for instance, now that's not great. What I can do now is I can work on top of that. I can use like sample the color. You can use that as like as a scaffolding on which I can like create some artwork, right? So I can come through here. And if I'm really trying to do this nicely, I can do something like this. You know, I come in with my white or like a darker color, hit this area here, right? So anyway, if you want to spend a little time on that, you can convert like a photograph to like an old Nintendo style design, right? So if I wanted to really work on this, I might come through on my background, get like a green or something. All right, so now I've got my little dude. It's not a great green. There we go. So now I'm just coming through here and I'm playing around with the coloring, making sure my pixels are aligned, getting stuff kind of in the right spot. This is a little weird of a task. I would recommend probably doing something a little bit different than this, but I mean, if this is what you're into and you want to try to do something like this, you're more than welcome to do that. I think it might be a little bit more fun to attempt to do something like from a something that like inspires you. Like if you really want to like try to make, like I was saying, like that Iron Man or something along those lines, or try to create a video game, or just think of something you're interested in. Maybe you want to try to make your own sort of design. It's all up to you. That one's kind of cool, Hulkbuster. Okay, so having said that, that is pretty much what the assignment is. I want you to get in there. I want you to think about what you'd like to make. And I want you to create anything you want, all right? I want you to get in there and make anything you want. Anything goes. It's fun. Try to relax. Enjoy.